I wasn't supposed to post this video yet, but with everything happening in the Middle East, I felt it was important to post it now. As all of you know, I specialize in Homeland Security and national security with areas of emphasis like counterterrorism. I'll leave a link somewhere so you guys can check all that out. So I wanted to post my review of the 2025 annual threat assessment next month, but here we are. I have to post it now so we can all begin to prepare for the worst. The fragile balance in the Middle East is shattered. Iran, after months of failed provocations, launched a successful strike on Israel, marking a dangerous turning point. The United States responded swiftly with an airstrike on Iranian nuclear facilities. What was once a simmering shadow war now threatens to erupt into open confrontation. And according to the intelligence community's annual threat assessment, published just last month, the threat Iran poses to the United States is not only serious, it's layered, global, and rapidly evolving. Iran's strategy revolves around regional dominance, regime survival, and pushing the U.S. out of the Middle East. Tehran is relying heavily on its expanding missile arsenal, a growing nuclear program, and an aggressive web of diplomacy with countries like Russia, China, and a range of actors across Africa and the global south. Domestically, Iran is struggling. A weakened economy, soaring inflation, and increasingly public discontent have shaken the regime's confidence. But these vulnerabilities haven't softened Iran's posture. They've hardened it. Tehran sees chaos as leverage, and in the wake of Syria's collapse, Hezbollah's decline, and continued Israeli military successes, Iranian leadership is doubling down. What makes Iran so dangerous is its hybrid approach, blending conventional weapons and with cyber warfare, influence campaigns, and proxy violence. Iran arms and funds militant groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, all of which continue to attack U.S. interests and allies. Iraqi militias, emboldened by Iranian support, are targeting U.S. troops in both Iraq and Syria. The regime remains focused on creating instability to drive the U.S. out of the region. And while Supreme Leader Khamenei still appears reluctant to draw Iran into a full-scale war with the United States, the hesitation is showing signs of eroding. Tehran is now actively rethinking its strategy, and recent events suggest that the line between restraint and escalation is thinning fast. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence confirms that Iran is not currently building a nuclear weapon. However, for the first time in decades, that red line is fading. Iran's leadership has allowed public debate about nuclear armament, empowering hardliners who want to see the regime cross the threshold. Khamenei still holds final authority over the program, but growing internal pressure could tip that balance. In parallel, Iran is also continuing to research chemical and biological agents for offensive purposes, exploring substances with sedative, dissociative, and even lethal effects. It's not just about deterrence anymore, it's about developing tools for influence, disruption, and global leverage. Inside the US, the threat doesn't just disappear. In fact, it multiplies. Iranian operatives have actively targeted American citizens and former government officials. After the 2020 killing of IRGC Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani, Iran ramped up its plans to retaliate on the U.S. soil. Intelligence confirms that Tehran has built surrogate networks within our borders. And in 2024, an IRGC actor compromised the email account of someone linked to a former presidential campaign. That account was then used to try and phish individuals tied to the campaign itself. It wasn't just espionage. It was an attempt to interfere with the political process from the inside. Iran's cyber capabilities are no longer in question. They are sophisticated, increasingly aggressive, and fully integrated with its influence operations. During the Israel-Hamas conflict, Iranian cyber actors launched coordinated attacks while simultaneously amplifying disinformation through social media. These aren't isolated threats. They are comprehensive campaigns meant to destabilize the West, sow division, and weaken democratic institutions. And in the wake of recent events, it's safe to assume Tehran will continue to escalate its use of cyber tactics to supplement its military and diplomatic goals. Militarily, Iran's arsenal remains vast and increasingly lethal. It holds the largest stockpile of missiles and drones in the region, and while not all of them are accurate, their sheer volume makes them a persistent threat. The recent successful strikes on Israel demonstrate that Tehran has improved the precision and reliability of its systems. And while Iran's conventional ground and air forces are still plagued by outdated equipment and limited training, its ability to disrupt shipping in the Strait of Hormuz remains potent. Small boats, submarines, and asymmetrical naval tactics make it a continued threat to global energy supplies. But perhaps the most overlooked element is Iran's global realignment. With sanctions choking its economy, Iran has found allies in places the US is often too slow to counter. Military cooperation with Russia has surged, including drone sales for use in Ukraine. China remains Tehran's economic lifeline, while relationships across Africa, Latin America, and even parts of the Gulf are expanding. Iran is positioning itself not just as a regional power, but as a key player in a new axis of resistance to the West. That diplomatic shift is helping Iran bypass US pressure, form new supply chains, and build long-term security partners that could outlast the current conflict. Internally, the Iranian regime is more fragile than it appears. The 2022 and 2023 protests shook the government to its core. Widespread anger over corruption, repression, and economic stagnation continues to boil beneath the surface. The regime's legitimacy is waning, and that desperation could lead to more external aggression as a way to rally support or divert attention. In the face of instability, Tehran may try to provoke the US, not avoid it. The US airstrikes on Iran nuclear sites were not just retaliatory, they were a message. That message was clear. Continued escalation will not go unanswered. But if history has taught us anything, it's that deterrence with Iran is a moving target. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So what happens now? We face a country that's wounded, cornered, and armed with missiles, drones, proxies, and digital weapons. A regime that sees survival not in peace, but in confrontation. And a leadership that, for the first time in years, is seriously considering breaking the nuclear taboo. This isn't just about Israel. This isn't just about the Middle East. The threat Iran poses here across oceans, across networks, and increasingly across time zones. And the next phase of this conflict might not start with a missile. It might start with a cyber breach, a port explosion, a political assassination, or a flashpoint in a place we never expected. In my next video, I'll be going over how you can prepare for the worst, from your emergency bag to your cyber defenses. But until then, stay alert, stay informed, and know this: the storm may be far from over.